Is this thing working? Are we live? It looks like we are live. What is happening, everybody out there in Mopar land? Doing a bit of a quick show tonight. I did a video not that long ago, and it was basically just talking about what will end up being the new, well, Charger. I say it like that because is this new thing really even worth calling a charger? Just, it's one of these weird deals where I look at the car and I don't feel charged up about it. I don't really feel excited about what I've seen so far. Maybe it's a base model, I don't know. But the reality, yeah, it's not all that soul stirring, if you will. But besides all of that, the fact of the matter is this: we've got a future to look forward to with no V8 in sight. And so I'm curious to get the real impressions from you guys. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts truly are. I mean, let's face it, you got Dodge moving away from the V8. You've got, well, at least in the half-ton trucks. We don't know what's up with the three-quarter yet, do we? We've got, well, Chevrolet, I guess, is going to soldier on with the 5.3 and the 6.0, and Dodge has nothing to offer for that, really hasn't with the 6.0. So can you miss what you never had? Ford's going to roll on with the 5-liter. But the weird thing is that of the trucks that are being sold right now, a ton of them are all 6-cylinder turbos, with Chevrolet having that 4-cylinder. You know, there's always one in the family, right? Anyway, the reality I'm seeing coming with the new turbocharged cylinders, although it's not necessarily a good sound for some guys, I think the power is all there. And I know that there's a lot of guys out there that say, well, I would only buy another truck from insert manufacturer here if they've got a V8. Well, let me ask some questions. I feel like I need to qualify some things here because to me, it only sounds like a negotiation. Let me walk you through my mindset here. So, guys, I was very close to buying, well, 2 other trucks before I bought my Ram. Hard to say Ram still to me. It seems like it should be Dodge. But anyway, I almost bought 2 trucks. The first one was a 4-wheel drive STX with a 5-liter, and had Ford not been acting like a dumbass, I probably would have bought that truck and never looked back. Sometimes I wonder if I should. Anyway, the other truck was a Chevrolet. It was a Silverado with the 5.3. And to be honest with you guys, had that truck not been pathetically slow, like legit unresponsive, I guess I should say, then I probably would have bought that truck. Dodge came in as a strong second runner to both of those trucks, being tied for last. Although that sounds weird, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. So it was outside of the reason of the truck for the Ford and wholly the reason of the performance for the Chevrolet, with nobody else in sight. I didn't buy the Ram because it had a Hemi in it. Quite frankly, that truck could have had practically any horsepower making contraption underneath the hood. And if it made upwards of 400 horsepower, it would have been in the game regardless of what that engine would be. So we're coming into the Charger. I just can't call that car a Charger. It's got to be an Intrepid, right? Anyway, we're coming into the Charger not having a V8, at least as far as we know. And we're coming into the Ram not having a V8, at least in the half-ton that we know of. The thing that really kind of gets weird with me, though, is the Hurricane 6 as the only power plant, as the only thing that you have a choice of with Ram. And with Ram not having a V8 at all, it makes it look a lot like Toyota. because you got to remember the Toyotas don't have a V8. They're only 6-cylinder turbos. And they've run into some problems. See, one of the things that you've got to remember, guys, is although it's just not a name that you would associate with big V8 power, that 5.7 liter that was in the Tundra was actually a really well-built engine, and with a supercharger would make pretty darn impressive power. That's right, TRD offered up a supercharger for those things, and they would haul ass with it. But that's beside the point. Had some issues, at least early on, with that 6-cylinder. I'm afraid that there's just not enough beta testing with what we're going to be seeing with that Hurricane 6. What are we looking at? Well, the base model engine is 420 horsepower and about 470 pound-feet of torque. But the base engine makes peak power at 5,200 RPM. It's not bad. You kind of would like to see a little bit more RPM out of it, but it is going into a truck, and so there's that. It is kind of weird to see RPM numbers that low if it's going into a car. Doesn't matter. The HO, on the other hand, makes 540 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque, but it's going to make that at about 5,800 RPM, right around in that range, which is good because that's about where the Hemi makes its power, at about 5,600 RPM. So you can kind of see where all this is heading. If you've got a standard output engine in your Ram, well, that's going to be a very torquey ass engine compared to your V8. And it's going to be a rocket with that freaking HO motor, provided that you're going to pay the money for it. I went online today and I tried to do a build your own of a 25. I couldn't do it. It wouldn't let me. But I've kind of got a truck in mind. You can't get the HO without four-wheel drive. Aw, darn shucks. I guess I may have to start looking at four-wheel drive trucks. The only downside is that you can really only run that truck on premium. And so I got to think that might be a bit of a headache. But I think that would be a really fun truck to just own and drive, provided that the thing will actually do truck stuff. See, one of the other things that I noticed is that, well, the standard output, if I remember correctly, had a higher towing rating than the high output. And that might make some sense. I mean, you don't always see the HO or the high output version of a particular truck being their top towing offering. So maybe there's something to do with that. Probably has more to do, though, because of the gross vehicle weight rating. Four-wheel drive trucks are going to be heavier, and even though they make more power, they just can't tow as much because physics, weight has everything to do with that. And I'm a bit torn between the two engines. I like the idea of the HO. I've driven it and it scoots. But man, the fact that the standard output can be run on any grade fuel, and well, it seems to be a little bit maybe gruntier, at least down low. It's starting to sound a lot like the 2.7 versus the 3.5 EcoBoost. So that's kind of piqued my interest, if nothing else. But the reality is that if you're into cars, you're living life without a V8 soon enough. And whether there is a V8 offering as an option, some special edition or whatever, you ain't going to own it, because it's going to be deep dollars for you to get in there and actually be able to get yourself one of those cars in your garage. It's just going to be too damn expensive. And there's no reason at this stage of the game to hold on to the hope that a V8 is going to come. We haven't heard of anything. And if we were going to see anything, it'd be offered up in the truck, but at least think leading into this. And that's been kind of Mopar's MO, is that they drive things through the truck. It's how we got the Hemi. It didn't really happen with the Hellcats, but I think you get the idea. I would at least have assumed that with truck buyers being much less open-minded than car buyers when it comes to how many cylinders are in the engine that's powering their vehicle. You'd have thought they'd have thrown it at the truck first. We ain't seeing that yet. So unless you want yourself a 3/4 ton truck, you ain't going to get a V8. And as far as I know, we haven't heard anything about the 3/4 ton trucks. At least I haven't. And at this stage of the game, which is about halfway through January 2024, we may not be seeing anything we're talking about anytime real soon. But how do you feel about that car, guys? You know, the inline six has got a lot of promise. It's going to make a lot of power. The HO looks to be a pretty rowdy combination. But is it going to really stack up? Is it going to really be that enjoyable to drive? Is it going to be enough of a departure? And if you're a Cold War kid and you're used to hearing about the V8s going away when you were a teenager, well, what does it do for you? You guys are used to the Grand Nationals, the Typhoons, the Cyclones, the GTRs, the Elks, the Daytonas, the Omnis, and the list goes on and on. 300ZX. You know, just keep going from all the cars from the, I don't know, mid 80s to mid 90s or late 90s. You had a lot of those cars that were out there that were destroying V8s, stock for stock especially, and even some modified V8s. These stock hot rods were keeping pace and basically annoying the hell out of them. From a performance standpoint, they're not bad, but the reality is that guys want the soundtrack. And put it to you another way. What if I were to tell you that they were going to put a V10 in that car, like the Viper V10, somehow or another becomes an offering? It's not, guys. It's a thought experiment. Just hear me out on this. What would your thoughts be on that? Too many people get hung up saying, I'm going to miss the V8, the sound of the V8, that rumble. But what if it were the Viper V10? Where would you be with that? Remember that the Viper V10 is the worst sounding engine that's ever been made. And I will stand by that as somebody who's owned 3 of them and have raced another one. So 4 total Vipers in my life at some point. I know what they sound like, and I've been around them for so long at one point in my life where I was sick of them. How would you feel about that V10? Oh, it makes a whole bunch of power. Okay, let's say it makes 500 horsepower. Better still, let's say it makes 550 horsepower. Makes peak power at about, 6,000 RPM. So 550 horsepower V10 in a car that weighs 3,800 pounds. That's a Viper. You know that, right? Like, that's what the Vipers weighed in. That's kind of what power they were making leading up into the 5th and 6th gen. That's kind of how this car is shaping up with the HO6. I mean, and believe me when I tell you, if you're talking about getting a Viper engine for the sound, or rather a V8 for the sound, but you'd be cool with the Viper engine, you're not cool with the sound. It doesn't mean that much to you. So I guess the more I think about it and the more I'm walking through this in my head, the more that I'm actually becoming more and more and more okay with the V8 going away. And one of the reasons for that is all of the issues that have been, prevalent with all of these displacement on demand / multiple displacement system engines that are out in the world. Too many of these trucks from both GM and Ram have had multiple issues with lifters, multiple issues from Ford at one point with cam phasers. We remember the Tritons. But that's since gone away. And I know that I'm bringing that up just because somebody's going to mention it. But where I'm going with this is too many of the cam and block engines with with this transitional technology just have not been able to produce a reliable long-term solution to owning a vehicle. Add to that the Hemi's terrible valve train geometry and heavy valves. You're begging for something to go haywire with the valve train with these things. And it does happen seemingly regularly. Although maybe not as regularly as with Chevrolet, but you get the idea. I'm looking forward to where we're going with this, and I'm pretty happy with, well, what we can see coming forward. But I'm just curious, with no alternative, I'm certainly putting a lot of faith in some engineers that they got this whole thing right. And you got to remember, these things are going to be direct injected. They're going to have there's a bunch of things that can go wrong with these engines and a bunch of maintenance items that can create havoc for buyers. Remember that the buyers of a Grand Wagoneer may not be the same as the buyer for a Ram pickup truck that's going to be out on job sites all the time. These guys are a lot harder on equipment than somebody that's just hauling the kids to and from. I know there's plenty of people that have been running the hell out of the Grand Wagoneer. I get that. Uber Black, maybe? I mean, the higher end level. I see where you're going if that's where you're going to be bringing up the conversation. But the reality is that guys with trucks, those things spend a lot of time at wide open throttle. And I'm just curious if the Wagoneer can manage that. And the reason why I say they spend a lot of time at wide open throttle, it's not just because guys are out beating the hell out of them and having fun with them. It's because they tow boats and trailers and RVs and stuff. In other words, they're used as trucks. So the engine's got to be able to stand that kind of, remember the three: use, misuse, and abuse. Those are the three things you've got to engineer in terms of tolerance. And I'm hoping that this engine can manage that. The Hemi's proven itself to be fairly reliable, but the six cylinders haven't. Look at every issue that Ford has been having with the, almost said Power Stroke, with the EcoBoost, and for how long that's been the case. I can only say that just because it makes more power doesn't always mean it's better. But the problem is that the power is what sells. The power is what people talk about. You don't watch YouTube videos and watch one car out accelerate or do something than another car and then say, oh yeah, but the other car is more durable or the other car has better longevity. You're always say, oh, got smoked, got its ass kicked, got some kind of sensationalized hyperbole always goes into the commentary. Not understanding the fact that a lot of times the car that's faster was only faster in that moment, and then it scatters its innards all over the interstate not long after the video was taken. You never hear of that part of the conversation. So anyway, I get it. More power, more better fuel economy, etc. Let's hope, especially if you're the one shelling out the money for one of these things, let's hope that it has let's just hope that it's got the durability. That's what we're going to need to see. By the way, guys, we're doing a little bit of a short show this evening because it's about 25 degrees outside and I am cold. And being from down here, I don't do that kind of temperature. I'm allergic to that kind of cold. Skids is in. What's up? Oh, I got the Flex the Ball guy with the shades. I like it. Silver Bullet is in. Lime's in. Good evening. Skid saw a side-by-side comparison with the new next to an 80s Charger Turismo. It was surprising the similarities. Oh, yeah. I like that. Noab is in. What's up, man? Sam is in. Pathfinder really impressed me on my 5-hour road trip yesterday, 33 miles per hour. Nice. Thinking that the V8's going away is only a fad. It was only a fad not that long ago, at least in my memory, where V8s were going away, but the potential for them to be held on life support by the technology that was out that made the 6 cylinders and the 4 cylinders so good and powerful do the same to a V8. We'll see. But remember, naturally aspirated V8s are what we're talking about, not boosted V8s. And it's the naturally aspirated part that stings us, because to get the power, you got to have compression, and to be able to utilize the compression, especially nowadays with the compression ratios that they would need to run 12, 13, 14, and 1, you're going to have direct injection, and you're going to have direct and port injection at the same time, so you keep the valves clean. But more importantly, you're up against the limits of what knock threshold really does look like for gasoline. We'll see. Fingers crossed. X is in saying, I've got 2 V8s. DM saying, good evening, y'all. Get after that like button. Thank you, sir. Red Dog's in saying, what's up, B? Patrick saying, V8 withdrawal, nervous twitch, shaking, drooling. Understood. Complex is in. It's the word card. Just throw old names, 5 to 7 names of Dodge Chryslers at it. See if it sticks. That's what it sounds like, the way they're naming these things. Rome is in saying, hello. Have you seen the video of the new Charger rolling on the highway? It looks damn good to me. I haven't seen it. I've only seen the spy shots. I haven't seen the rolling stuff. Skid's talking about the truck, not liking the top trim tungsten. I thought that was a joke when I first heard of it. Haven't seen. Oh yeah, I did see that when I was doing I didn't really pay a lot of attention to that. Tungsten edition is going to be like 70 grand. Yeah, actually be a lot more than that too. It'll be more like 90, but for the top trim of it. Sam's in saying, keep an eye out for a turbo V8 and 3/4 and 1.5 ton. That would be cool. Skid saying, Ram 1500 heavy duty, only turbo 8s will be a diesel. Yeah. Well, I mean, been running along with that Cummins 6-cylinder for a long time. That inline 6 doesn't seem to have any problems making a lot of power. DM saying, I like a nice sounding V12. Yeah. The same thing. It's 1.5 ton is 5,500. DM saying Lamborghini Countach had the poster on the wall. So did I. It's late. Yeah. Sam saying even the 5.0s have issues with that eco stuff. Yeah, no doubt about that. Ford had other issues, man. Yeah, EcoBoost, true, but they also had transmission problems. It's a machine. It's going to be a weak link no matter what. Let's see. I don't think they'll have a V8 turbo. Yeah, no, there's nothing there, I don't think. Let's see. Oh, Sam saying Ford and their timing chain issues. They did have those issues earlier on in the 5.0s for sure. Saying all of us had the Countach. Yep, had the white one. Saying, Countach. Yeah, Sam. I had a Star Trek and a John Deere 4550 poster. Let's get Star Wars. Yeah. Dan's saying, yeah, we don't have a long track record to reference with the inline 6. That almost forces the new owners to really beat the crap out of them, hoping problems show up early and can cover warranty for sure. Heather Locklear is a good call. So really, guys, what I wanted to talk about, again, it's going to be a really short show tonight, but, it's interesting that, we start talking about, and Hemi had, I actually almost beat me to the point. So Dodge hits on a new car and we are hoping for high output Hurricane. When do you think we would see it? 2025, it's supposed to be third quarter of this year. And that's what we're being told. And so when we're talking about life without a V8, and when we're talking about the potential to be looking at these cars, and a lot of guys are saying, it's V8 or nothing. I think if you play it through, a thought experiment where you go, okay, well, if it's only about the sound, then you would hate a V10. Oh, but I like the V10. Yeah, but the power's about the same. The V10 sounds worse. The V10 out of the Viper, it sounds like a freaking V4 and a V6 are having an argument with each other. And that's just because of how the thing how it fires. The firing order is a 9054, 9054. But it's not just because of that. It's because it's a V10 that doesn't have any real RPM to it. V10 starts sounding really good at about 7,000 to 8,000 RPM. Kind of like a six-cylinder starts sounding like an inline six sounds really good at about 7,000 to 8,000, maybe even 9,000 RPM. But that 7,000 to 8,000 RPM, it really sounds really spicy. But the Viper stuff doesn't really spin that high. So anyway, it can't be about the sound if you would be cool with a V10, and just be thinking about where you're going to really find yourself. If you are in a scat pack and you get walked away from by one of these new cars with either the standard or the HO6, who knows, right? Weight being what it is and power delivery being what it is, the standard output can give a scat pack a hell of a hard time. So be thinking about that. Would it matter if you see the new car kind of tipping out on you, especially if it's a standard output? What about the HO? The HO is certainly going to be faster, but does it matter to you? You can say, well, I've got my V8. Right, but you've always had an argument for a Challenger and a Charger that they're big cars with a big V8 engine. It's very American. This new stuff kind of ain't. And not from a burger and fries point of view. So I would just challenge you guys with this, and I got to wrap it up. Guys, we're about to see some really cool stuff coming in the next 6 months, 8 months. As much as I hate to admit it, I think that I'm going to like the 6 a little bit better than the 8 from a durability standpoint. I'm assuming some things here, but I think it's going to be better in that respect. Will it be better? Will it be a better car? Not necessarily. It will be newer. It'll have more technology. There will be some things that will be better, but I just don't feel like it will be better for a lot of people. But for a certain age group of guys, this car makes more sense than a V8 anyway. Because there was a time where Dodge led the charge with 6 cylinders and 4-cylinder turbos. I feel like it's only appropriate for Dodge to carry or to keep carrying that torch and to usher in the new era of the not V performance offering, at least from the United States. And guys, with that, I got to wrap it up. We will catch y'all on the next one. Sorry if I didn't get to you guys. I got to make this really short. We'll see you on the next one. That's a wrap. Adios.